Get it poppin'. Today we have Renaldo Summerset for Summerset Technologies to talk to us today.
Hey everybody, again this is Renaldo Summerset Technology Solutions. Glad to be here. Welcome everybody, and let's get this going.
So today we're going to talk about breaking into technology. So there are a lot of questions and there's a lot of stuff that people who are interested in tech jobs, could be help desk, could be data analyst, could be computer programmer. I have Renaldo Summerset here today to talk to you about it and to answer your questions. If you're interested in calling in, please do. Again, Renaldo Summerset. So how did you start your company?
Okay, I can provide a little bit of background on that. Basically, I've been in the tech industry for many years, over 20 years. Computer programming, most of those years. And over the years, learned a lot, and I decided, basically, because if anybody who's ever been interviewing, I started a staffing and recruiting firm that's focused on the technology field, IT, and because that's my wheelhouse. That's why I focus mainly on IT, though I can work in other industries. But anyway, I did that simply because I didn't quite like the way the recruiting process went. It just felt like I was just a number, as opposed to somebody, as opposed to, and I'm sure you can relate, as opposed to really knowing what they're talking about. You know what I mean? It's when I talk to people now, some people start venting and they're surprised that I actually know what they're talking about. You know what I mean?
Right. So you felt like you were just a number when you were looking for jobs.
Correct. And or if any recruiter was just trying to, recruit me, a headhunter, saw my resume or saw my profile online, and
So
they would
what is
call.
your background as far as education?
So I went to college, Howard University, and I actually graduated with a computer science, is information services degree.
Okay.
And it took me a couple of years to get my footing after that, but then I, took some struggle during that time to for myself to break in, even with a degree, even with a little knowledge. But with a little bit of persistence and all of that, I found a gig. Then I just kept working, found another one and another one. So I went through that. I went through that. I went through that route basically. I went through the traditional route. So, but
So you
so
wanted to form a company so that you could help other individuals find work in the technology field and treat them better so that they feel like they were being mentored?
well, great question. All of that in a sense. A better way of doing, a better way of the recruiting process. Also, to I'm also passionate about getting underrepresented minorities who are interested in the tech field. They feel like they can't get in, and there's several reasons why they feel that they may not be able to get in that industry. And it's like, let's talk about why these feelings are. Some are real, some are just in our minds. And so part of my reasoning is to, and it's for everybody, to be honest with you, but I do, whether you're a minority or if you're just somebody who's outside of the traditional tech world. But I am passionate about getting those underrepresented minority women, people of color, more interested, because you don't see them as much in the tech industry as there should be. So,
Yeah, I'm sure you don't see that much as many Americans in the tech industry like you used to either.
and
A
there's
lot of companies are actively recruiting from overseas.
and I think that's another thing, and that, shout out, and no disrespect to any overseas, folks who are overseas who are killing it, because they're doing their thing, and they're actually putting in the work and making it happen. But there's no reason that this country can't be much more a bigger player. It doesn't have to be that way. You know what I mean? It's,
So
it's,
they're very competitive when people come in from overseas. Do you think they're more competitive than a lot of Americans who are trying
yeah,
to break in? Hmm.
and they're underpriced, and they're willing to do things for less money also, which is another issue. A lot of in a lot of cases, they you can actually pay somebody from another country a lot, especially if you're allowing it to. We see this in other industries outside of tech. That's why they offshores like calling centers and things like that,
Hmm.
because you can pay folks a lot less money, and
Right.
again, they also are doing the work. They actually do know have a very deep knowledge of a lot of these technological terms and ideologies. So they actually do know it pretty well. So you do find it very competitive. You find it between their knowledge that they seem to have, and in some cases you can some cases they are willing to take a lot less money because it costs so much to live over here as opposed to in a lot of other countries.
Right.
Those are a big part of my reasons.
Hmm. So one of the things you asked is, you think people would want to know how to go about finding a job in tech, and what effort do they need to put forth in order to find a job in tech.
Yeah, throughout my career, throughout my years, I constantly have people asking, yeah, how do I get into that field? I see, and mind you, this is after I've been doing. I had been in the industry like 10, 15 years, and
Hmm.
how do I get in there? You see, and I didn't go into it because
Hmm.
I didn't realize how much money you can make and everything. I was always interested in this when I was young. So and at the time it wasn't this big boom of you're gonna just pay these tech people all that money. It's just something that happened over the years. But I think a lot of folks start asking, well, hey, this is a field that you can make good money. You can make a doctor, lawyer money, in some instances, but you don't have to have a medical degree. You don't have to have a law degree. You don't have to go take the bar, and you can it's a very lucrative field. And so folks would ask, how did you get into it? What did you do? Blah blah blah. And some folks I would talk to, and they're like, they're just trying to find a quick way to to make money. And I'm like, you got to put in a little bit of work, also. You know what I mean? You have to actually
Hmm.
learn. I was working in the industry for a little while, and but then there's some people who are really passionate. They really want to get in, but they didn't. Maybe they don't have a degree, or they
Right.
graduated with a degree in something else. You
I
know what I
know
mean?
it's funny you said that, because in the early 2000s, I had a friend who worked in tech in New York, and he was making 160,000. He had no degree at all. He just studied C plus. I don't know all the tech terms, C plus plus, and he went to Barnes and Noble and got these really thick books, and he would study them, and they were
Yeah.
thick. I'm talking like 1,000 pages. And
And
he would just study them and go take the test, and he was making great money.
And that's part of what I'm talking about here. He put the work in. Yeah, C++ is a programming language, so if that's what he was doing, he was programming, and then yeah, you can again you have to put that work in. You also have to have a certain passion for it. It could be boring, and that's just only one thing.
But
C++.
don't you think you have to have a passion about anything you really decide you're going to put the effort toward?
Correct. I would agree with that. 100% everything, just about anything, you
Hmm.
have to have somewhat of a passion. I think some people believe that you can go in and you can jump in there and just kind of figure things out because they're like they see certain guys like say your friends say like me, and they're like, well, these guys making good money, and they don't seem they just seem like regular people. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And a lot of times they don't know the type of work that say your friend put in. They don't know what the long hours that I've worked, or and the pride that I take in making sure that I do a good job
Hmm.
on and like you said, that's in anything. You know what I mean? In anything
Right.
you
Now,
it's
what?
just
Go ahead. I was going to say, what skill sets would you suggest that people focus on or they need to have in order to pursue this? Because sort of like if you're coming from a non-computer science background and you're trying to break in, what would you suggest? What type of courses would you suggest that they take? Because I do know, they have these different apps that have computer courses,
Yep.
but if you don't know the difference between these two computer courses, you wouldn't know whether you should take something cloud technologies or whether you should be taking data analyst or whether you should be taking scrum master or whether you should be taking computer programming. Like, for a person who has no background, what would you suggest that they may start with, and what do you think that they need to have sort of in their back pocket even before they go to the interview? What basic courses do you think they need?
So that's actually a very, very good question. And because there's a lot of different disciplines within tech, it varies for different people. There's some people, so for instance, if somebody is kind of like they're working in the office, they're kind of like the office manager, right? Per se. They may not have, they're not in a non tech environment. They're the office
Mm-hmm.
manager. Make sure they somehow morphed into a role where they kind of handle all of the operations and everything like that, but they may not have possibly gotten that title or that role. There's a IT program manager role. It's not the most technical role. You're going to want to know some things. Pretty much that's a role to one of your things. That's a role that you would need a cert, especially if you're coming in from a non IT background. And to be a program manager, project manager, excuse me, to be a project manager, sometimes in a lot of different fields, they want you to have those PMP certificates.
So you
But
think project manager would be a easy route to take?
and so easy is subjective. Easy
So
if
they
you're.
it might utilize soft skills, right?
That's exactly what you said. You can accentuate the soft skills. So some of the softest skills that you may see people have is,
Mm-hmm.
so for instance, project manager, tech writer,
Mm-hmm.
even folks who do QA, that's a qualitative analysis and testing. What those jobs entail a lot more are so like a tech writer is exactly what it says. They actually produce documentation. They're actually good at writing, and
Oh, okay.
you do have to learn some. You're gonna learn some a lot of technical jargon, but you don't have to go and do C++ or Java or anything like that to you don't have to know databases and things like that.
So you saying they could just open up, they can just have a dictionary next to them
That's
and learn as they go? Is that what you're saying?
They need to be a good tech writer. They need to be a good
Okay.
writer. I should say,
Okay.
not a tech. They need to be a good writer,
Mm-hmm.
and then, and that's where you say you can transfer those soft skills
Mm-hmm.
over to the tech world. If your person is really good with attention to detail and you like to troubleshoot things, but you don't necessarily know the technology, that's
Right.
where testing. When you have to be very detailed, you have to be
Mm-hmm.
very and you have to be able to think outside of the box. And that's where you can take those softer skills and take them over to the tech industry. But if you're also a person that likes to tinker with creating mobile apps or
Right.
those type of things, that's where you go in and you can learn different disciplines. Like that's where you go and you don't have a degree, you don't have any experience, and you've been out of school for a while or whatever. That's where you go learn different languages, sort of like
Mm-hmm.
Java. There's several different languages that they actually use. There's Perl. I'm losing my mind right now, but
No,
there's
take your
several
time.
there's several languages that people use, and they're not as you if you already have you already have applied that knowledge in other things like playing around. You can actually take that knowledge over into, like you said, getting into books, learning a lot more, things like that. So there's several, and so it's my first thing. If somebody ever comes and talks to me and says, they want to get into the tech field. I actually want to ask, like, what have they done anything in it? And I have no idea what I want to do. And I have no idea what I want to do. I don't know, but I just know I want to get into technology. I would ask,
Well,
like,
it
what is your
seems to me like in the computer world, computer technology, it's like its own fraternity. Like you'd have to know the secret codes to really even have a great conversation with them.
Mhm.
It's like they're, like you said, there are different languages. You have coding, you have all of this back end computer stuff, right? So it could be seeming a little hard for a lot of people to do. But I will tell you that people that I've met in the computer world, they they love it. And folks, guess what? You get to work from home almost, what would you say, 80% of the time now? You're
Now,
working from home.
a lot of time. I mean, at least 80% now, because
I've
yeah,
I've heard of people working for two different corporations. They're getting 80 over here and 120 over there at the same time. You can almost work 2 day jobs in one day.
I know of that personally. I know somebody who personally knows
You know
carry,
someone, right?
carry around 2 laptops and everything. So yeah, and yeah, and get paid for
Talk
2 days.
about freedom.
It is. It's that type of and but like you said, I think what people, you have to go and understand, like, what are the different disciplines, and somebody, you probably would need to talk to somebody if you just don't really know. And
Hmm.
because like I said, programming, like a lot of people understand. A lot of people, when you talk about, say, a lot of people understand it, and I should say they know about the internet. They go on the internet, they open up a web browser.
Hmm.
They may not even understand that to create that for that web browser to do whatever it done that does, there's several different discipline of people that have touched that web browser. For instance, there's a person who's a web designer. They're the one that actually makes the screen looks like like it looks like when you go into Google something. And
Oh,
so they
okay. So like a person, if you're designing your website, if you set up a website on Shopify, and you would call that person what? The person who's designing the website?
they're web designer. They make
Web
they that
designer. Okay.
sometimes they call them UX designer, user interface
Mhm.
designer, developer, and they
Mhm.
actually create. They're good at actually creating the look and feel of a website.
Okay.
And sometimes these disciplines, because that's something, like, say, personally, I've dabbled in, but I haven't really done a lot in the actual creation of a website. I've played with it a little bit, but it's coding behind it. It's actually computer programming, but it's a different discipline. So then, say for instance, I'm more of a back end coder, and some people back end programmer, and people ask, "What is that?" And I normally like to say, "So you're on Google and you do a search and you hit go.
Mhm.
Most of the time, after you hit go, that person who's that front end, that web designer, his
Right.
work is done. That comes to something that I would catch that request, and I would make it do a number of different things. I may have to go off to several databases and do some
Oh,
authentication
based on the user information input.
based on the input. So if
So
you
you
say,
have to guess the user information input. So would that be something like if you're going shopping and you're looking for a Nike sneaker and there are four colors. So now you have to program it on the back end to draw from another database.
correct.
And then there may be size.
Mhm. And
That's
so
another.
what's going to happen mainly so what's going to happen mainly in that instance, that you will type in Nike sneakers, and you're going to
Mhm.
get if you type in Nike sneakers, you'll get a whole bunch of things that may not actually even fit what you're looking for. That's why you have to be a lot more specific when you're doing your searches.
Right.
And the more specific your search, the less hops that it has to take and all of that.
Right.
But what's happening though is that the transfer information has went from the web page through a couple of different, and it's even gone through a networking layer that, like, me nor the front end developer touches. Somebody else There's another person involved that makes sure that all these communications happen properly. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's another discipline. So there's so many things that happen, and then those databases that hold this data. It's another
Right.
person who that's another different person who actually makes sure that the databases have the information there in there properly. They can serve up the information fast. So it's a lot of different things that happen.
So now
Um,
when you go into Google and you're looking for a, no, let's just say you type in let's say you type what do you call those protectors, surge protectors. So you want a wall surge protector, right? When you type that in, a whole bunch of stores come up, right? And then it's like you feel, as you click, you keep going deeper and deeper and deeper.
yeah.
And so Google has to have a back end person that can pull from these different sites. And then, like you said, once you go to that site, somebody else is touching it and designing the software to pull from more databases. It just keeps going deeper, deeper levels.
Deeper levels, and those databases that are created for everybody. Google's just one of the users, but these repositories are out there for whatever browser, whatever. It's just that Google's one that they have one avenue to get in there. Like you said, if you wanted to use Safari or Bing, it's just a database repository that is being used. So
Hmm.
yeah.
So basically, back to the education part, like, are there any, I guess the classes you would take, what you would have to determine before what you want to do. So you said project manager. Now, some of these jobs I want to go through because some are more specialized than others. Some require people know languages, some not so much. So, could you tell us a little bit about? I'm going to just go through a couple tech jobs so we can understand a little bit more. I brought up an article from Tech Jobs Fair, and this article is called Best Tech Jobs for the Future. And I'm just going to read a little bit from the different types of jobs, and then maybe, you could just help elaborate a little bit. So there are quite a few here. So, and
Sure.
and the audience may recognize some of these job titles. So, okay, so one is, we hear a lot people say network engineer or architect. So it says they use information technology to manage, plan, and implement the computer's network of a certain company or an organization, and they design the configurations such as firewalls. Salary range for them is between 46.5 and 115,000. So what exactly is a network engineer in more layman terms?
So let's see. In layman terms, basically,
Architect.
so a network architect or engineer, that's going to be a person that's more so they there's sort of a layer that so basically your computer the way so if anybody who's ever worked in the office and all of these
Mhm.
computers, it can you'll even have a disk or a drive out there, a shared
Mhm.
drive. All this stuff is virtual, meaning there's virtual machines, virtual things, and the way all of these things are linked together, the way that your company has an intranet, the way that your company keeps everything in house, there's a network architecture that provides a layer of security,
Mhm.
information, so that it allows you to talk one computer to the next. There has to be some sort of networking in order for you to actually even talk to each other. And at the same time, when they talk about firewall, the firewall is there to protect people who are not supposed to be in your network.
Right. Mhm.
And it's almost as if they even talk about, if you're at home, they talk about your Wi-Fi network. It's kind of that. There's technology behind all of that just aids in the communication. When you actually are talking off of your, when you actually sending anything off of your computer, it's going
Mhm.
through a, it's going through a, it's going through some sort of means to help facilitate this data being sent out, and also it can allows you to provide a layer of security also at the same token. And hopefully that makes a lot of sense because that makes sense because, like I said, computers just don't naturally talk from one another unless you plug them, unless you take a cord from one and plug it to the into the other one.
Right.
Normally, the way if you go over if you go into somebody's house or you go into somebody's you work in an office and
Hmm.
you get something where these two computers can see the same thing. It's a layer of network that helps that allows you to see that.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
All right.
So that leads us into cyber information security engineer slash analyst that says here they defend what the network engineer has implemented. They install firewalls and certain software to increase the security of the company's network and protects them against cyber attacks. And that they it seems like the pay is so low. It's saying 40,000 to 100,000 annually. It just seems like cybersecurity would pay way better. Just
and,
saying.
and I'm gonna guess that well when you talk about cybersecurity, that can be kind of subjective in the sense that it is
Mm,
exactly it is exactly what you're saying that they actually implement security rules and things like that, and they actually help protect against attacks and things like that. But there's sometimes some people in certain disciplines have to, like, for instance, in my career, I've never been considered a cybersecurity expert, but when you write code, you have to some at some point in time, especially if you put anything that's going to be, especially if you write anything that's outside world can get in and get your data. Meaning you wrote something that allows people to come and grab data from your own repository. You have to put a level of security in there, and you get involved in cybersecurity in that instance. Cybersecurity experts. So I believe that you could probably have analysts and people who have different jobs that aren't really coming up with the security. They're not really doing the whole they're not putting together algorithms and threat protection and things like that. They may be more involved in cybersecurity as opposed to the person who's implementing. And if you so for instance, if you're a person that writes code in cybersecurity, you're not going to be making $40,000. You're going to be more than $100,000. You know what I mean? But if you're more
hmm.
of an analyst, you may be on the I don't know about 40, but you may be on the lower end of that end. So it kind of
Okay.
depends on what you're doing. You know.
Okay. Yeah, that seems interesting. I always see jobs for cyber security advertising for that.
Cybersecurity
Uh,
is hot. Again, it's something like if anybody ever wanted to talk, that was something that's some is a very interesting. It's a
it does
cybersecurity is a
seem interesting.
well, it's a buzz term also. It's not a term that when I first got in that was anybody was talking about, but of course we had to have some level of cybersecurity. It's just the recognition of this field that needs to be pointed out. Well, but we always had to. That's why I said it's subjective because we always had to have very secure software, and it's a newer term, a newer discipline that's out there now.
It's really serious because you hear of all these stores like Target had a big cybersecurity breach. A lot of banks have had breaches. And it's like, I guess you have hackers that are just sitting there figuring it out, and eventually they break through their cybersecurity. And
But
it's
what
sort of like,
that's what makes it and there's going to be another term that comes up in the next 20 years, but the more people that are allowed to with the internet has changed up so much that it allows access to so many different things. And just a regular average person can have a computer, get on the net, have access to some of these folks, have access to say Target and
hmm,
whatever they provided because they got to have a website.
hmm.
So how do you allow people you want in, but then banks have the same issue. How do you make sure that people that you want to see data can see it, but the nefarious, the bad, the bad folks, how you keep them out. And that's a lot of securities around that. You'll see that in our defense system of this country. You'll see that
Hmm.
and like you said, Walmart's, Targets, all that stuff. So
Well, there are some other jobs here that it looks like they utilize soft skills. So one of these jobs is called a transformation consultant, which apparently they help a company achieve their goals. They are hired to help the company make decisions about their business concerning modern trends in a market of the world. That seems like the kind of position that if you have a finance degree,
yeah,
that would really help you, or some sort of analyst, data analyst, because you have to be able to, in order to help a company achieve its goals, you have to be able to look at the data and see, what has happened in the most recent past to kind of predict the trends for the
yeah.
future.
Well, that's and that one, like that one, I haven't pretty much come up. Is it called a transformation
That's
consultant?
called a
Is that what it's called?
transformation consultant. Yeah, there are a few of them here. There's another one called change manager, change
Yeah,
management, which is the core of a company as it sustains and maintains the company's basic core, while also helping the company adapt to market changes so that the company may benefit from it. So, under change management, because that's a new term. I've never heard of that. But I would say that if you have a marketing degree and again a business degree, that's a good area to break in. And actually, the salary is much higher. It's from 100,000 to
and you
$150,000. And again, the transformation consultant average salary is $110,000.
and those types of like those may not be things you will typically, like you said, you haven't heard of those.
Yeah, it
Oh,
doesn't sound like you need to have major technical
not at all. Those are
computer science background.
you're more but you're probably more like it sounds like those skills you've kind of hit the nail on the head on those skills. Maybe you have a marketing degree, you have some sort of a sales degree. Sometimes there's even coaching involved in those type of things. I would have to guess that and those type of fields you can use them, and it's not even necessarily IT also. That you could pro-
Mm.
I would guess that a lot of companies might need a change management or a transformation person also, but they may not need a computer programmer. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So,
Hmm.
so those
Now
are.
you said those are what now?
I was gonna say those are just different. Those are just different disciplines. It's probably on a needs basis, based on what type of organization you have. Also,
Hmm.
what were you gonna say?
And then I also wanted to get into, there are a few jobs on here. And mind you, people, there are a lot of jobs on here. So I'm just picking and choosing some different areas. Now, there are two jobs here, that one is a computer support specialist. Would that be like that's somebody who helps people in the company with their technical support. So that would
Yeah,
be help desk. Am I
sound like
right?
that. That sound like help desk. Yes.
Okay, now a help desk is usually not a real complicated process to get into. That seems like a great area to break into. That pays between 30 and 70
Yes.
thousand dollars. So, like, what classes would you need for help desk?
Typically, they make you take a something. It's like a security, like A plus certification that
Now, is
helps.
that all you need? The A plus?
And it kind of depends on the organization, but I believe that's it. May be is I think it's really only one or two. I've never went that route, but
Mm-hmm.
I've worked with folks who actually got their certs, didn't have a degree, got
Mm-hmm.
their certs, worked a little bit hard, took a while, and got a help desk job. And again, help desk is a actually a typical job that somebody who may be outside looking in can get into. It's not. I wouldn't say it's easy because you also like just anything else. You actually have to take the course, and there's some technical information in there. There is technicalities in learning help desk. You got to pretty much probably know. some basic level IT terminology, because you sometimes what they do with the help desk, there's normally for bigger organizations, a help desk has levels. The first person
Mhm.
that you talk to in a help desk, that sometimes that's not a person that really even knows. And I'm trying to be. They don't know. They're not even very familiar with the system. They're given a script, and they can really work on people's
Oh.
very basic problems. And then
Mhm.
that's why if you ever get transferred to somebody else, you might be going to another level of
Right.
and so it can happen. Like I've worked in organizations where they have a couple of different, because a lot of times, and that's why you don't have to. That's why the salaries can be lower. I'm not sure about the 30, but
Mhm.
because you just have somebody who's really just fielding calls, and they're starting with some of the basics things that people like. Sometimes people call just for you don't need to have somebody like me, somebody like your friend
Mhm.
answering the call. We write a program that people are using to log into a system, right?
Mhm.
And they people, you know what happens? One of the major things why people can't get into their system, they forget their passwords or they mess it up. If
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
call the help. So, and they something's wrong with the forgotten password. They don't know how to use it. They call the help desk. You're
Right.
not gonna go to you're not gonna go to somebody who's writing programs and stuff. To you might as well have them hit a layer of somebody who can. Hey, they say, hey, have you checked this? Have you checked that? Now try this and try that, and that's gonna probably get rid of like 75% of your help desk your calls. You know what
Mhm.
I mean?
Mhm.
So that's why the companies may have a first level help desk before it needs to escalate any further than that. So, and so that's definitely a good. This is definitely a good field, a good starter
It's
field
a
to get
good
into.
way to break in, I would think, if you could break in that way and get a job, and then you can continue your studies and keep
I've seen,
going to a
I've seen
more
them.
like
They
just
normally
a
don't
more
ask for
complicated position or more of administrator or
you want to get
management
into
position.
cloud computing, and you want to get
Mhm.
into networking. You want to get into that's starting off at help desk. A lot of people, I've seen people do that, and they they just if they take to it, they like it. They
Mhm.
move up and they move into other disciplines. They you know what I mean. So
So I wanted to talk about this other position, and I think this position would be great for younger people who are very social media savvy. Now, this position is called the social media tech manager slash administrator. And
okay,
this person has the job of launching social media campaigns and maintaining them. They are very important to the company's social media presence. And they also um, maintain the number of people who are interested in the company. So they keep reaching out to those people. They keep a record of the types of people that the company targets for their products or service. And this actually pays between 42 and 90,000, and it's a pretty key role, I would think, because it bring awareness to the company on social media, and everyone has these cell phones and everyone's on social media. So it seems like that would be the type of position that over time would definitely gain more prestige.
yeah, most definitely, and that's again, that's another that's not even a typical. And especially if you worked in the industry a long time before social media was even a big thing or a thing,
Mhm.
um, that wasn't even a field, but it's very key now because every organization wants, pretty much all organization wants to know what their social media. They probably need somebody to keep track of all of the what are all the statistics, the counts, how many people, whether the message is getting out to the right people. There's a lot of insights out there on all social media, so that's definitely a good
Mhm.
role for, like you said, a younger person who's into social media. And it kind of goes, and I'm not going to get off of your job track, but it kind of goes to what I kind of have been talking about within my business and preaching that there's so many different disciplines. If you take what you know and apply it to this is a key one. You could be a person that is into tech. You want to get into tech seriously, and you're good with social media.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe something you want to do forever, but you're good with social media. That could be a good way to get into to a company. You'll learn a lot about.
Exactly.
You don't have to. It doesn't sound like they're asking you to write any code, or they
Mm-hmm.
more like they want you to handle their social media. It's almost a person who knows a little bit about marketing at the same time too. You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
I think that's definitely an excellent job to start off with.
Now, I want to talk about a couple websites that I would suggest. I'm going to mention a couple websites, and I thought maybe you could mention a couple websites that people could go to get IT certificates. So, some
Okay.
of the websites I found was it's a site called grow.google, grow with Google. They actually offer IT certificates through another website called Coursera. That's Coursera. And Coursera has a lot of IT certifications. Some may be 6 months, some may be 4 months, some may be 10 months. And a lot of those certifications are through major universities like Johns Hopkins School and other schools just offering certificates. What schools do you know any other online?
Would like to take online. There's several.
Yeah.
What's Udemy? Udemy. They teach. I think it's Udemy.
Mm-hmm.
Udemy. Um,
Udemy, isn't it Udemy? Yeah, Udemy.com.
yeah, they're also they're a popular one. Google has an academy of courses that I've seen that are popular. I believe learn more about say Google.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they probably I
Simply
think
Learn. Simply Learn is another. Simplylearn.com is another school
like
that where you can take courses.
and these are some of the ones we're talking about because if you ever go in and just start typing in, there's probably so many of them. So you actually do want to do your you want to actually go and vet them, look at them, do your due diligence to make sure that they're reputable. Ones we've
Mm-hmm.
talked about so far are pretty popular and they seem to be
Mm-hmm.
reputable. I know people are taking what was the one you said? Coursera, Simply Learn.
Coursera, yeah, you can get to Coursera through grow.google. And a lot of these online websites, they might offer the course, they may not always offer the actual test, and some of them do offer the test. I think Coursera offers testing. KnowledgeHut.com also offers certifications and testing. So,
It's one
these
called
courses may range anywhere on average, would you say maybe about $500
yeah,
to
yeah.
to 1200 on average a course. And then the Coursera courses may be a bit more. So I think that kind of depends on what you're taking. So that could probably be anywhere from 500 to 10,000 depending on how heavy the course is, I guess.
Yes,
How long it takes.
definitely.
Mm.
I, I
Mm.
would say like just I would vet each course, do look into them, see if it's the best thing for
And
you.
talk to people who, try to seek out a mentor who's already in the field or closely related to the particular niche field in in the computer world that you're looking to get into.
And yeah, definitely, and to get in there and learn. I mean, I've learned different things. I've learned different disciplines just being on this phone call. I mean, that's on being on this podcast. So that I've learned that there are different disciplines that I haven't even heard of. Also, so there's so many things out there, and I've put together like just very brief postings on social media,
Right.
just just to show that and to, to talk about like I have I have one thing that I'm going to read off that I posted that about breaking into how to get into this, how to get into the IT field, little to
Hmm.
no experience. So I have a series of posts that I put out there,
Right.
and
I'm looking at your post right now.
so one in particular I'm going to talk about just real briefly because I think people just I really try to try to it's not this magical mystical thing out there. I think that a lot of people can actually get a feel. One of the things that I posted was about acknowledging it, fears and roadblock. It talked about like having self doubt. There's things that people out there. If one thing, if you want it, you're gonna get it. If you want to get into the industry, there's nothing stopping you. If you want to get in any industry, there's nothing
Hmm.
stopping you, let alone IT.
So you have to be confident even if you don't know that much in the beginning.
You don't know that much. And it's one of the roadblocks or belief people have is for young people, not
Okay.
necessarily. You know what I mean? Not
Oh, so
not.
you're saying that people, a person that might be 55, if they're retiring from one career and they're looking for another career, don't be afraid to shoot for it. Is that what you're saying?
Why not? Because think about the different disciplines that we've talked about. There's no reason that somebody who wants to continue doing something and they've always been interested, and they don't necessarily have to start if they have long term experience, they can transfer that knowledge over to one of these other maybe the change management, maybe what I mean, depending on what they've been doing. I mean, any age you can come into the industry. There's always room for there always room for people out there. There are a lot of people who are in the industry, but there's room for everyone. There's a lot of jobs out there.
Yeah. Oh, there are definitely a lot of jobs because what I'm noticing is that's why being a data analyst is so valuable right now because all the companies are trying to pull in information, whether
Yeah,
it be from their websites or their apps, and they're trying to sort of coagulate the information from their customer base or their patient base. This can be in healthcare industry, service industry, retail industry, manufacturing industry. They're trying to connect all their dots and see how their business does, and they're able to determine their goals for the future. So in order to do that, they have to coagulate all this information about their customers' behavior, their customers' past and present, and um, they have to almost predict their behavior, and that uses data. So
yeah.
everyone's trying to grab this data and store this data and have this data help them be more efficient in their businesses.
And that's because you're very correct. The data
So it's
analyst
growing. It's growing like crazy, like
and
weeds.
and then the actual storage and utilization of the data is a huge field. Is huge. Is a totally different huge. Anybody who's in the database administration, data governance is another one. Data science is even another industry. Everybody is trying to collect all types of information because they want to try to stay on top of what their consumer wants or
Hmm.
what I mean. And so definitely a data analyst is a and it's a it's a kind of a starter position that's very very important out there, and but it's a good position because sometimes they're looking for folks who just get in there and just like you said, take all this data and it's a lot of what the data analyst is all about just being very organized and making sure that data's coming in and where to properly put it
Right.
everything like that. Data
Data
is
is valuable, so valuable.
you'll hear big data a lot, and that's another industry where another part of the industry where it's like the collection of a large amount of data and the utilization of it is huge. Yeah, it's very
Mhm.
huge. It's I know folks who work in the data field, and it's hot right now too. Yeah,
Mhm.
cyber data, artificial intelligence is another one, which can be controversial, but it's another industry that's you know not going. A lot of things, a lot of people, a lot of there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of controversy over it, but a lot of the things that we're using right now are using artificial intelligence. So you know what I mean. From this call, from this podcast to when you go to the stores. So they all use a lot of data.
Everybody's using a lot of data. Data, I mean, companies are selling data. Banks are selling your information. They may not sell how much funds you have in the bank, but they are selling your demographic information, like your age,
Yep.
what area do you live in, because advertisers are very aggressive with all these companies, and they're offering a lot of money to get an idea of their customer base
Yep.
and to target their customers.
100%.
So
And I
they
think
may give your email address. That's why you always see not just banks, but all kinds of companies when you sign up for a credit card at Nordstrom's maybe sell your information, and you wonder why you're getting these weird emails in your inbox, right?
and like you said, once you sign up for most of those things, your information is now out there, and they actually have you, authorize them to be able to use that information to be able to
Hmm.
sell it. And like you said, to get that information, to get a user's email address, getting somebody's email address is not the most difficult thing in the world. I know a lot of people think it is. It's not. You hit the nail on the head. To get that user's email address, their age, whether they're male, female, age, demographic information. That's what they need, and that's what you're talking about, data. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
know. Like, how does somebody get my email address? I'm like, you put your email address all over the place. Every time you sign,
Right.
it's to get the information attached with that is valuable, and people pay a lot of
Hmm.
money for information right now. I mean, to be a whole lot.
I wanted to share with your listeners your website. Renaldo can be reached at
Yep.
www.somersetinc.com. Again, that's www.somersetinc.com. And his business is located in Glenarden, Maryland. Am I right?
Yeah, Lanham, Menard, and Maryland. Yep.
Okay. And you wanted to give some shout outs to some businesses that you cater to in the Maryland area.
Oh yeah, just a real brief. We won't keep, and there's so many of them, but just and these are people I've just worked with. Work with or collaborate with, or even just had a drink and a conversation. Good people. I'll give a shout out to Neil Alfonso. Is Ask Coach Neil. He's
He's
a
on
career
LinkedIn.
coach.
Ask Coach
A career
Neil.
coach.
He's a career coach.
And on the Ask. Mhm.
Okay.
So
And he could be reached
I
at
got another.
LinkedIn. Ask Coach Neil.
Yes, CoachNeil.
Okay.
And I have another guy who does voiceovers. And and I like to shout out these guys. These are minority businesses also too.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's Greg Russell, Greg Russell's voice, GR Voice, and his website is Greg Russell, GregRussell voice.com. He does voiceovers and other different types of talent and things with your voice.
Okay.
And I have another couple of fellow recruiters that I work with. One is Janet Smith, Talent Smiths.
Hmm.
Some of the folks I work with closely, we sort of keep each other accountable in our businesses and everything. All of us use each other just to make sure that we're pushing forward and we're doing the things. So this is Janet Smith, it's Talent Smith. Her website is talentsmiths.net. Bridget DeFreitas at Stepping Stone Recruiting. These two folks, Janet and Bridget, they're both great recruiters. If you ever need a job, or if you're looking to hire, if you're looking to find a great person, they're also great recruiters. And the last one, another recruiter, tech recruiter, Judy Ross at Technical Writer Consulting.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last I want to mention right now, because I don't want to make this too long, is the coach. And this lady has coached many of us that I've mentioned. She's a business coach. She's a staffing and recruiter coach, but she also coaches life coach, and she does a great job. Her name is Dee Williams of
D. Williams.
Dee Williams of Identifize. IDENTIFIZE Consult. And she does coaching. She's helped a lot of us push our business forward. So yeah.
Okay. Very, very good. Thank you, listeners, for joining. We enjoyed our show today, talking about breaking into the tech industry with Renaldo Summerset of Summerset Technologies. Thank you so much for joining. Get it poppin', where we want to have your ears and give you trending and informative topics and information.
Thank you, and shout out to Get It Poppin'. Thank you for doing this. This is a great platform. I'm looking for more to come.
Okay, thank you.